My oldest sub, my oldest sub is submarine, submersible, is was originally actually, well, it was made of steel, so it rusted. It was called the Nautilus. I've made other videos about this, but basically my oldest sub was called the Nautilus, and it was built probably somewhere around year 400 or 500 or so. And it worked fairly well, and probably built in Germany or somewhere around in there. Later on, I had subs painted white. I had other subs around year 1200. My first nuclear sub was somewhere around year 1200 or somewhere around in there. By year 700, I definitely had nuclear submarines and other things. Well, 800, I guess. Year 800 or so. Although, like I say, I had only one or four of them. I didn't have very many nuclear submarines. Um, you would have to look at Germany, Renault, and somewhere around in there. There's photos of my white submarines, basically my first white submarines. I did them really nice with this gold motif and stuff on the head of it, as well as on the mast part of it. And those were probably around year 1800 or so. Um, by year by year 1900, I had quite a few submarines. By year 1900. 1920, well, I had about 32 to 60 submarines, about maybe 80 by by um, by year 19 something or other. Anyway, my first submarine was actually kind of like shaped like a triangle, I think, but it didn't work out that well. I mean, it couldn't go down to very deep, and it crushed fairly easily. And we changed the shape. I initially went with a diamond shape kind of submarine, and it didn't really work out. I think I had maybe a flat bottom so it could rise up or something like that. I forget. The first submarines I did weren't very effective. Um, and I forget the exact. I think they were. The problem was that we were using pig iron or basically plate steel, and they were riveted together. Those were the first ones. Later on, ones were more of a rounded shape. Although I liked the ship shape, basically, and mostly we didn't really have what's it called? We didn't have oh, the battery technology wasn't really all that great. We used lead acid batteries. Those could maintain the charge the best. We didn't really have lithium ion or the really advanced batteries, and we didn't have a lot of things. Well, 1800, a lot of things came out that we did have, but they were, well, some people regarded them as top secret. Around 1900, things were a little bit more advanced, but around 1900, I was switching over from basically a me thing to more of a population and the whole world thing. Um, like I say, I'm LS and Lucifer Star and Brian, um, Epic Adventure. Like I say, my battleships I use for basically breaking rock. I had quite a few shells, like 400 or 1,000 or 1,500 shells, basically, of fairly large weight that I could use to break rock with, which meant I was the that I outproduced most people with metal. I could mine and gather more metal than most people. My gunpowder technology was also epic with ammonium nitrate and all kinds of other things. Mostly I used it in the Panama Canal projects for breaking up the rock. By year 1812, I was using nuclear bombs or nuclear explosives in Panama Canal. And probably the first nuclear explosive was probably somewhere around 1700, 1800. But like I said, radiation was one of those things that I stayed away from and really didn't really want to get involved in. Like I said, some other groups had actually been using radiation and stuff or refining uranium without my knowledge. They were trying to get a jump on me, and it basically ended in their death, pretty much. A lot of people in the early days also didn't regard isotopes or uranium as very particularly dangerous or bad, and I said no, there will be effects, there are effects, it is dangerous. Do not go near it, do not ingest it. I don't care if it gives off any radiation at all, it will be bad. There is no safe radiation. Some people did not regard my safety warnings about it. I actually said don't go near it, or if you do go near it, be heavily shielded. A lot of people disregarded my warnings and even sought to prove me wrong with it, and it was a mistake. They died. Some lasted 6 or 7 years, some lasted 3, some lasted longer. I said radiation and reactive isotopes are not something. There are people that wore uranium necklaces that were warm. They didn't last very long. I tried to warn them, but oh well, they wouldn't listen to me. So anyway, a lot of them would write letters saying, or say to me, I wish I had listened to you. And oh well. Curie was one of them. Anyway. I try to lead my people the best way I know how. I knew how. Anyway, so my first nuclear submarine was actually I think they actually took apart one of my nuclear submarines somewhere around 1200, year 1200, and with tools, and they died. The Republicans, aristocrats, the Democrats, those were the people that did it. Probably maybe Mr. Brown had something to do with it too, thinking it was some great new leap forward. Anyway, the people they sent to take it apart are dead. They died within, well, some say 2 weeks. I started unbolting the reactor. Like I say, I've talked about that quite a bit, what they did, about how they took it apart and dragged it to a barn. And then the whole town died. They dragged it to another town, and that town died. People that just got near the barn died. Anyway, so the first submarine I had was about 1,000 years ago or more. So, anyway. Yes, I had lots of submarines and lots of other things.